Good evening, council, audience, calling to order the special council meeting of August 16th, 2023. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Knoll?
Here.
Ms. Atruk?
Here.
Ms. Weltman?
Here.
Mr. Daga?
Here.
Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr. Gentili?
Here.
Dr. Wong?
Here.
Great. Our first agenda item this evening is approval of the council meeting minutes of July 19th, 23 and July 26th.
I almost said it myself.
But before we get to that, I would like to lead the room in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Maybe we should start printing that on your chest.
No.
I'm usually pretty quick on that. I was slow tonight. Thank Sheila for saving the day.
Oh, no, Manny got it.
You had a good idea there, Mayor.
Manny.
All right. Do we have a motion for the approval of the July 19th, 2023 minutes, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one comment. I would like to strongly advocate for, and Sheila does a fantastic job, but there's software out there like Board Docs and other applications where she could then slot in the minutes from the agenda. It would also allow us to have any attachments that were public content attached. And it doesn't have to be Board Docs. I looked, some other cities actually use Board Docs, but it could be another. I don't advocate for any specific platform, but it would allow for a very balanced, it gives a slot so you could have a balanced minutes for each section. I think sometimes using, transcripts, it's hard to do that. We all have different microphones and all of that, but also it allows for it to be preserved, not on site, in a digital form. And it would allow us to, if we chose to, so say we had a PowerPoint or a document, we could attach it. It would also allow us to have, if content wasn't public content, so it could be something having to do with an executive session. If we wanted to put it there, I understand we might want to have a hard copy, but it would allow us to have that in executive content. We could also have our policies or our ordinances on there, anything. So it's just something I think we should really look into. It would be really, I think it would save Sheila some time.
Yeah, and I inherited.
And we keep changing them.
I
No,
would
no,
love
I think it's a good suggestion. We'll
Yes.
take a look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it
If we
automated?
can make her life easier, I'm all for it.
And I just think that way, if she needs to, it would already be preset. So if she needed to redo them,
Yeah.
I mean, it's in Word, I understand, but it's a little cleaner.
It is.
All right,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
take a
pretty
look at it. We'll
clunky
take a
right
look at
now.
it.
So you can drop and drag into it agendas and everything else.
What's that?
On this system. This is a document management system of a
Yeah,
fashion.
basically it's free. Well, my experience with it is using it primarily for agendas and minutes and also having access to policy.
Okay.
But we also would load documents there for time to time so people could have it to look at. Anything that you wanted to archive, even people, like you could have people applying for empty spots and their applications were actually in there. So it could be anything. I mean, but it just really is a good management system. And I'm sure there could be others that are better. It's just the one I'm most familiar with.
Okay, we'll take a look. Thank you. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Atruk?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Mr. Daga?
Staying?
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
All right, next, a motion for approval of the July 26 minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Atruk?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Mr. Daga?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Our first
One
agenda,
quick question, the minutes from
From
August,
the last week's
from
meeting?
the other meeting, yes.
I'm gonna do those with the August.
From all the time, okay. Thanks.
our next item is ordinance 2023-07. This is to approve current replacement pages to the Pepper Pike codified ordinances. We're going to table that for this evening. The backup information that we would have wanted to distribute to council has not been available from the vendor as we anticipated. So hopefully they'll get the stuff that we need to us
Yeah,
by
the
next week.
Description on the ordinance would be great, so
Yeah.
everyone knew what they were talking
It-
about.
It's a bit of an administrative task, but it needs to be done right. So we will make sure we get those sheets from the vendor, the replacement pages that they didn't get.
And we do this annually, right?
Annually, yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's,
This is the first year they haven't put the description in the ordinance language, so that made it,
Yeah, there's a summary of,
yeah, they
Yeah,
have
right,
a list.
right.
I just had a quick question. I know other cities do this occasionally, like maybe every 10 years or so, but do we actually have a set charter review that we do as well, just to
I'm
review
sorry,
the
set what?
charter review, to review the entire charter, like every 10 years or whatnot?
No,
Is there
we don't
a
have
way?
that.
Should we do that? Something to think about? Because I think Orange does it every 10 years. I know other cities do
Is
it.
that in their, is it mandated to do that, or
I
they
think
just do it as a matter of good practices, or?
It's
I
in the
don't-
charter.
It's in the
It's in
charter.
the charter for Orange.
Yeah, we don't have.
Every
that in
2
our
years you
charter.
have to,
10.
it's something worth thinking about. It's been a while since I read the whole charter in its entirety. This
Yeah. or
I-
we could-
I don't know if there's-
Things we should clean up.
anachronistic things in there that
Might
shouldn't
be
be there
really
anymore.
old.
I've looked through some of our, there's some obviously very old things that probably are there for historical purposes.
You have
but
to
if
have
we-
2 acres to have a horse, that kind of stuff.
Stuff like that. Every road they changed the name of from back in the 20s, but
Okay.
I still think there could be things that we might want to clean up. It's a good point.
Okay.
Well, road
We're
names,
thinking
the chart, understand the charter is not the road
Not the-
names.
right.
Charter is not the ordinances. The charter is the governing document that sets up
Sets up all of that.
the mayor, council boundaries, powers.
It's the Constitution.
So do we, when they do the review in Orange, does it only cover the charter or does
Yes.
it doesn't cover any of the ordinance review?
It's just charter.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
And it's a city vote to make any changes, right, Steve?
Correct, to change the charter. And you'll recall you did that when you changed your zoning code.
Right.
You set it up so you could make changes to the zoning code.
So that was a
Is it
very
basically-
specific,
That was a specific, right?
Yeah.
So is
Okay.
it basically it's your role then to make sure our ordinances are clean as far as compliance with the Ohio Revised Code and things like that?
Well,
Is that-
remember, your charter allows you to take different actions than the Ohio Revised Code does. So you
Yeah.
have home
But
rule
just to-
authority.
But just to flag.
If there are implementation problems with our ordinances, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be brought to, I mean,
I
I'm
just
not
didn't know
reading-
how we flag that.
I'm
Yeah.
not reading your code, and I know every code still has that you cannot dye baby chicks, because that used to be a thing. You used to dye your baby chicks so that you could get a higher rate of return on them. And it's still illegal in Pepper Pike, I think. But I'm not sure it's ever been enforced. So those are things that are in there that are hundreds of years old that don't bother anybody.
Okay, not that I'm trying to be a stickler, but we're here for a special meeting of council and we need to kind of abide by our agenda generally. I think these are interesting topics. They're being brought up, but they are not the special council agenda. So let's just try to stay to our agenda. Next is, so that's, we're going to table that one. That'll move us on to resolution 2023-08, which has to do with certifying delinquent charges for nuisance abatement. Why don't, Jim, can you,
Pardon me?
Your guys cut the grass.
you guys
I
cut the grass?
invoice them.
Yeah.
If they don't pay their invoice, we assess.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
Uh,
That's
And
the
is it-
process.
For all of those, it just grass cutting? There's no other,
Just grass.
no other
all
nuisance
grass
that
cutting.
we're abating?
No,
Okay, just
No.
grass cutting.
it lets us turn on our.
everything else is volunteer, like if they have a mailbox they want to buy, that's volunteer.
So like yours.
But grass, high grass is.
What do we do about like dangerous trees, things like that? Is that fall in that?
Building department takes care of citing, going after people with, if a tree's in the right of way, it's different, it's treated differently than if it's in somebody's backyard,
Okay.
so. Though backyard trees do have electrical wires and stuff.
That's,
So they
that's
do,
what
so it
I'm saying.
doesn't fall, but, if it would come across the public utilities. But the building department, we
They
work
do that.
together with the building department,
Yeah.
but they're pretty much the lead on trees, dead trees.
So there were more properties than just what we're assessing? That,
Yeah.
is that my understanding? Some
Yeah, I'd
people,
say about half of them paid their bill.
so they already paid it, so they
Yes.
don't go to
They are
the.
not assessed.
I was just curious what our discovery process is for nuisance properties. Like how do we find them? Is this, somebody complained about the height of the grass? Did the city notice it?
It is,
Multiple-
something?
Multiple deals. Usually if it's not a resident that sees it, it's either the zoning inspector and then he'll call us, or I go around, especially in the growing season, May, when it's really bad. We know there's houses that are habitual problems. We have lots that are habitual problems. We go grab those and we try to have a conversation with them. If we cut it, we bill them and, then that usually gets them to start cutting their grass.
Okay.
It's usually a hit, but, and even the employees will see it and they'll tip us off to it. Or the mayor will see it and say, hey, there's some large property over here. Can you look into it? So we try to give them as much time to do their own thing. We will, we have a sheet that's a 2-day notice and they have to cut in 2 days and then we go out and generally we inspect on Fridays and Mondays. So we'll either get it in that week or we'll get it the next week.
we try to be cooperative with property owners. If they have an issue that seems realistic as to what's going on, someone's ill, those things, we try to work with people. Occasionally, people simply don't want to abide by, the concerns that have been expressed about what's going on. And it gets cut, and then I get a phone call that says, how dare you cut my lawn? Why are you billing me? And there's always a nice backup before we've gone and done that.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to make sure of was kind of, how we're following up maybe on some of those, like, does somebody need extra assistance? What's the reason behind it?
right.
Or did their landscaper just quit on them,
And a couple of them this year, and this happens every year, don't even live here. These are properties where if you look at the tax bill, they live in Beechwood or another state sometimes. So, or the bank owns the house. Yeah, there's all sorts of different scenarios.
Yeah. They're still in Florida, and the landscaper has been showing up.
Right.
They may not even know the landscaper's not showing up. So,
That brings up a question. Sheila, what happens if it's bank owned? Does the bank usually hire a landscaper? Or?
Sometimes.
the
We
banks have
only
been
had-
pretty cooperative.
Yeah, we only had one bank-owned property this
Oh.
year.
In the past, banks have been pretty cooperative, trying to take care of it.
How many properties are we talking about? Like, just on average?
There were
What is
about
it, 7?
6 or 7?
Not bad this year.
Let's list.
That didn't pay.
Oh,
And then
oh, that one. Okay.
so
So the 9 on this list,
Yeah.
probably if you said these are about half, so we had about less than 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
bad there.
Yeah, thankfully, the people in Pepper Pike are very responsible maintaining and caring for their properties. So we really don't have much of an issue here. Okay, so did we have we need a motion to suspend on this? I
No.
guess.
That's a resolution.
Oh, this is a resolution. We don't. We just need a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
second,
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll,
Yes.
Ms. Zatra,
Yes.
Ms. Weltman,
yes.
Mr. Daga,
Yes.
Mr. Lemay,
Yes.
Mr. Gentili.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Council. Next, we're going to move on to our ongoing discussion of the walkways. At our last meeting, I want to congratulate Council. I thought Council has been very effective in moving through the discussion and the adoption of this referendum that I think recognizes the concern of many of the residents who come to our meetings, and both pro and con of the sidewalks. And I understand that's just a microcosm of the whole community, the people who attend our meetings. But nevertheless, I think that, my sense of council had been that council wanted to, feel extra comfortable that what the desires of the community were. And I think that that's a legitimate concern by council. So I congratulate you for moving this thing forward to the super survey of moving it to the ballot. And we'll see how it turns out. I know that since we were last together, Mr. Lemay has diligently worked on tuning up the process that council has been considering. Mr. Shi, I know, has collaborated with him in getting some information that could be incorporated into it. And that's been shared with council. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lemay
Great.
To further comment on this.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to do a few things tonight. First is look at the red line that you've gotten in front of you and see if there's any. I thought we were pretty close last time. Final substantive comments, if you have them, or typos if I missed something. And then dive a little bit more into particulars on meeting dates for the town halls and logistics for that. And see if we can really firm up some of this process to get the publicity out. So I'll start with comments on the red line. Any comments on the red line? That I took comments from last meeting and from others, and I think I've captured them all. And everyone's had a chance to look at it, but open to fine tuning if there's fine tuning needed.
Jim, I have one, something that crossed my mind on the second page,
Mhm.
third paragraph.
Yep.
Those residents who live on major streets and who may be directly impacted by trails in front of their home. I'm concerned that that sounds like it's right in front of their home, and just
On the street,
specific,
the word in front you're saying sounds like it could be something more intrusive than it really will be.
Maybe if you said on their side of the street.
well, what I was sort of proposing is, because it's a concept that we need to keep repeating, who may be directly impacted by the trails on the rights of way adjacent to their homes, or adjacent to the streets near their homes, something like that.
I like
Yeah.
that better, adjacent to the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. It avoids that proximity
To the
concern
house.
that
Yeah.
you're.
It's mainly the.
Say what you just said again, Rick. So impacted by trails adjacent.
In the rights of way.
I don't want, I shy away from rights of way because people don't know what that means.
Adjacent to the street.
Adjacent to the street in front of their home.
I think that would be good language.
I like that.
And while I appreciate your specificity about not wanting to make, you say people might not know what that is. I think the whole concept of right of way is something that a lot of residents still don't really understand.
Yeah, we get, the FAQ goes pretty deep on that.
Yeah.
So I thought the FAQ question 3.
Yeah, I did see it in there.
Yeah. And we use the term right away to explain it there. So I think when they get that far, they'll
Maybe,
understand that.
maybe changing the question to say, will the trails be built on city-owned land, right of way?
To add that to that.
Add that
And
to
the
that.
parenthetical.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like another question could be, what is the right of way? And then you could describe
Yeah, yeah.
it. But
Okay.
maybe just adding that there will make that help
fine
make
with
that
that.
clear.
Which what is the right of way, I believe, was in the FAQs that Don had.
Yeah, it's in number 3 of the FAQs.
Right, so, I mean, so we could lift that directly from Don's document.
It's in there.
Oh, it's on there? I'm sorry, Jim.
FAQ number 3.
I didn't,
Why,
on
why,
the city-owned land, but it's like the question of like, what is a right of way?
It's in the first sentence.
Okay,
I see what you're saying, do something definitional on right of way.
that it's like, there could be an additional Q&A that just says, what is the right of way? And it explains it.
City-owned legal right-of-way that is much wider than the actual asphalt roadway width. Is that, I'm happy to add a sentence if that's not telling people what we're talking about.
You're talking about something that will express or disabuse the idea, I guess, or make clear to people that that front portion of what they perceive as their yard that's the right of way.
Well, and I think that we ran into that even with the Gates Mills Trail project of explaining like it's city-owned property.
Mhm.
Like, yes, it's towards the front of your home and you'll be viewing it, but it's also not, it's not owned by you. It's different. So like, do we need to delve into that a little bit further? Because I think we all understand it, but
I have an idea on that. So maybe I add a prefatory sentence that simply says, all the streets in the city have a city-owned right-of-way, and just make it generic to describe what right-of-way is. Is that
Yeah.
helpful?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would help.
I'll just add a sentence that defines right-of-way first. That-
I think
and-
Jim, one of the reasons that I'm concerned about that is that I've read a lot of emails from residents who say it's going, it's going to take 15 feet out of my yard. And I do realize that a lot of people
Yeah,
feel that way.
Yeah.
They feel it's their yard. And even though you tell them, oh, no, it's a right of way, they still say that's my yard.
and
But I have,
And respectfully, those who are not going to be impacted by it will still consider the right of way in their yard part of their yard.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that it's like that's a little, I think we're splicing hairs a little bit on this one.
Yeah.
Because I think the intent is, and what we've heard from the homeowners who do live on main streets is what they're feeling and what they've expressed. So I'm fine with it as it is.
okay.
I have a question though, for the law director. The right of way, is that an easement that the city has, and that property is owned by the homeowner?
When the road has been platted, as it has been in Pepper Pike, where there are platted streets, there's a state statute that says when you file the plat, the title to the land goes to the city. If you have streets that are not platted, and I'm thinking in Orange Village where they have Harvard Road, Lander Road, Brainerd Road, Emory Road, those are not platted streets. People own to the center line of those streets.
Oh,
and
really?
They're just a right of way. So there are different ways of doing different streets. They're old county roads.
Mhm.
And so when the county laid out roads, they were not dedicated via plat by a municipal process. Pepper Pike, being part of the Van Swerigen platting process, did have those. And what I don't know is if Doc can answer this, whether every single street in Pepper Pike
I believe every street in Pepper Pike
has been dedicated.
It has a dedicated
Yeah.
right of way.
Okay.
It's dedicated specifically to the city.
Yep.
Yeah, you see it like old farm properties and things like that. Everybody owns to the center, but
Right.
there is a right of way. Here, they don't own to the center. They just own up to the edge of it.
So maybe I still don't really have the answer to my question. So my lot is, according to the county, 1.1 acre.
Okay.
Does that not include the right of way, or does it?
It should
include-
not, in
Does
Pepper
not.
Pike, it should not include those that are subject to the right of, those areas that have the right of way dedicated.
Okay.
which is everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So I do appreciate though that, people view the property as their property. The definition is helpful so people understand which piece of land we're talking about. But I do think we are splitting hairs. People view it as their property, they maintain it. I think they're probably required to maintain it. We probably charge them for mowing.
More nuisance than property.
If they only mow, they could only mow up to a certain point. So, it's people's perception of when they buy the house, they buy that also, even if they don't own it. They own the maintenance of it. So,
All right, well,
Yeah.
I think
But
the point
the
is we need to
definition
work on a
I'll-
functional definition of right of way.
I'll start add a sentence that just lays that out. Yep, fair enough.
Okay. Jim, can I ask you, in 3, you have the red lined out, owned by the city regarding Lander Road.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
because I-
But on the second page, when talking about Shaker,
Mm.
you do have owns 35.
And take it out.
So one of them should
thought
be
it was
there, or
repetitive.
both should be there. seems to me.
Take that one out. It's in the first sentence. It's in the first line of the first sentence, owned by the,
I'm charging my phone behind me because I have a power outage. I didn't turn it on.
Oh,
Oh, me too.
For what it's worth, the power was restored, I know, just a few minutes ago on Kersdale Road.
Oh, good.
So
that's good news.
hopefully that's everybody who had a power outage.
Good news. Maybe my freezer won't defrost. Okay.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, got it, got it. Or take both out just to make it consistent is your
Yeah,
point.
that's all. That was my point.
Yep, got
Either
it.
both should be in or one.
Yep, I got it. I got it.
Uh, right.
Is should stay.
Should stay.
Yeah. Thank, good catch. Any other comments?
Oh, Jim, I did notice, Sheila, thank you for printing out the map. It's not super vibrant, and I want us to just kind of look at it and make sure, like, because I know when I got the, like the PDF file in our email, like on my screen, it was like, woo, okay, this is where the trails are. And I feel like on this map, I don't know if we want to clean out maybe that the background is white. If there's a way to remove that layer underneath, that it would make the
Or-
green and blue.
Or lighten up the background, so. it
Yeah,
pops
like,
out
I
a
don't
bit
know.
more.
Well, the map maker says you
Yeah,
can.
if there's an
saturate the
editing-
color and
We can
lighten the
tinker
back.
with it. This could be a function of the printer that we're looking at too a little bit.
Well, but I'm concerned if we're mailing it to residents, like we
Yeah.
want people to be able to hone in and see it. And
Yeah.
that was something that just my eye picked up on. I
Yeah.
don't know how you guys feel about it.
It's fair. The blue kind of fades in the background.
Yeah, so like how could we adjust that to make sure that it's,
I think it's
Yellow?
both of those things. I think we could certainly turn all that stuff off and just look at the roadmap.
Mhm.
But you may also want to do a dry run on the print quality where the printing is actually, if it's going to be this copier machine here, then you want to know that, or do you,
Well,
or do you
Okay.
ship it out?
yeah, like can we tweak it, I
Yeah.
guess. is-
Yeah, it's not so
Yeah.
bad to see the background. It gives you kind of more of a.
I do, I like that too, actually. Maybe just great, and just lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Make it yellow
guys.
or red or some other color other than blue.
Yeah, maybe the color of
The
the,
color
ro-
of blue.
the color of
seems
the
to-
road might
Yeah.
be better.
Something more flashy,
Okay.
Don.
Okay, all right.
No, it just, I just like to make
Sparkle.
sure that
Pink.
it stands out to anybody's eye, and
That's fair, fair point.
Yeah.
there may be somebody who's colorblind, they can't see it as well. Kathy may
They're
be
not
able to
red.
help with that, I don't know.
Yellow.
Okay. We'll work on saturating the color and lightening the.
Much appreciated, thank you.
Any other comments on the text? Hearing none, I'd like to go see if we can pin down or get some ideas for town hall meeting dates. And also, I guess the first question is, do we want to schedule 2 or schedule 3? We've gone back and forth a little bit on that, and schedule 2, then see if we need a third one? Or do we want a hard schedule 3? I'm open to either, your just thoughts on that. Is 2 enough, or do we need do we need a third one? Any strong feelings one way or the other?
I think your proposal of scheduling 2 and add a third if we need one is probably.
Depending on attendance at the first 2, if we get a huge turnout, then
I'm gonna, my perspective on this is if we're giving the dates to the public in the letter that we're going to be sending out, I think that we should commit at this point that either it is 2 or 3 as a group that we decide. I'm in favor of 3. I think it gives more opportunity for people to be available to come, or if they have additional questions, they can make it to that. But I think the kind of like, if maybe, I think our timeline is so short. If we weren't up against a ballot, that this were just a community dialogue, I would be much less concerned with it. But so I'm gonna put my support in favor of 3 and us sticking to that.
your point about publicizing it if we schedule a third is well taken, because how do we get that out if we do?
And yeah.
Kind of, it'd be late,
And
and yeah.
yeah, so I
get
think
that.
we commit as a group to what our plan is.
And so what's the early voting day? or
The
11th.
it is,
The
yeah, it
11th?
is 10/11.
10/11?
10/11.
early
We
voting
should pick the
starts.
third date first and work backwards, I think.
And I had kind of done that in that little timeline that I came up with, which again, we don't have to adhere to that. It was just more for,
But that's early, that's for mail. When does mail-in voting, is that?
Yeah.
so in the idea that I came up with, we were going to be
Okay.
mailing the document to the community by like Labor Day at the latest.
Mhm.
So I think that we have to have a lot of things set in place before that mailing were to go out as kind of our commitment to our plan. But again, I am only one, so
But just remind me, so mail-in votes go out when? Do you know, do you have that on your, or is that on your
When they're
schedule? I just
sent
pulled it
out?
up.
It should be on the Board of Elections somewhere.
10/13, 10/11?
But that's certainly when early.
So
voting-
10/11, so you would get your mail-in ballot in the mail on 10/11 or thereabouts? Am I reading
for
that right?
absentee ballot, I would figure, but I would have to look at it opens. So if you wanted to go down to the Board of Elections for early voting,
Okay.
you could do it 10/11.
And I guess my question
I
is,
don't know how the mail works when that one happens.
They start sending them out in.
9/11, they start mailing them.
9/11?
They start mailing them.
Wow. And then,
Thanks, Kathy. That's on their website.
but then when can you
Oh, yeah.
can you mark it?
Oh, sorry. That's for the primary election. For the November election, they start mailing them 9/22.
Okay.
And then can
And
you,
then it opens on 10/11, early input person. And
Well, I think we could knock off 2 or 3 meetings before 9/22 personally.
Yeah, I had potentially had one scheduled for us either the week of the 5th or the 12th was going to be number one. And then the week of the 23rd, the weekend of the 23rd, 24th for the second. And then I had a third one, perhaps the week of the 2nd of October.
so let's get to your first one. First one, the week of,
When
the
are the holidays this year?
I
We're
was just
gonna do a
thinking.
quick check on when the holidays.
Yeah,
It's right, it's,
15th and 16th.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
And
Rosh
the
Hashanah
following
is-
Sunday. It starts.
Sunday's
Sunday.
the night of Yom Kippur? That's Kol
That's
Nidre?
Friday,
Sunday
that's
night.
Friday. Sunday is, yeah, it's Kol Nidre.
Okay. So Monday's out.
Shoshana, like starts the night, Friday night, and it's
Alright.
like basically the whole week.
So that means the 17th is out. Or,
Here, I have it all on here.
Oh,
Right. The 17th, I didn't put as a potential.
The 17th is like the second day. But still, it's probably not good. And then, the following week, the evening of the 24th and 25th. So basically the weekend of the 15th, and then the following Sunday and Monday. Sunday is iffy. I mean, it starts that evening. I don't know what you think.
Right, because the 25th
Do
is.
we need to give the week gap or can they be back to back 3 straight days?
I don't see why there has to be a gap.
I mean,
I agree with you. I don't know what the
different
gap
reasons.
But if
is.
people are
Since
out
one
of
is in the
town-
evening during the week and the other is on a Saturday
Yeah.
during the day,
Yeah.
they could be the same week, I think.
That's what I'm asking. Do we have to have that
I'm sorry, what?
gap?
I was more doing that to get, like, if somebody were out of town, that it gave them an opportunity to do it.
Mm.
Or if maybe they had a couple questions, they came to the first one, it marinates almost like a week between our meetings here, that it's like they think about it and maybe they approach with other questions or thoughts. So
It also gives us a lot more flexibility
Yeah,
with
we'll
the
figure
school calendar if we do that, because it's really hard to anticipate. I know you have the school calendar, but there's always something going on.
Yeah, we may not be able to use the Learning Center.
Okay. There's, a-
We're just gonna see a date and then ask them. We
yeah,
don't know.
and I'm assuming the auditorium, it's not accessible.
Well,
yet.
maybe. What,
That's a-
Maybe the
you mean the
auditorium.
school auditorium?
Yeah, I don't know what status they are. I know they've been doing so much work. They
I
haven't
think the
done
work,
that
I
much in
thought the work is
auditorium.
complete, I thought.
That was complete for students that they can probably, so we should be okay.
So we should be
I
okay
would
for that
imagine.
part.
But there's also the Brady cafeteria. I mean, we
That's
have
true. That
like
was a
we,
good-
Yeah, the Brady Cafeteria is a good.
has
spot.
been a good spot. So, like, I
We'll
think
figure
we
out
have
a
couple
spot. I'm not worried. We'll figure out a
That's
spot.
easy.
Okay.
So
let's
let's, let's work on the dates. So that we're all clear, because it got a little sidebarish. The Jewish holidays that we need to block out are which dates again, someone?
I believe it was September 17th, 18th.
No, 15th, 16th,
Friday night, the 15th.
16th,
Saturday,
17th,
the
I guess.
16th.
And
Okay.
And then Yom
24th.
Kippur starts on the 24th and on the 25th.
Thank you, mister. All right.
So that's,
And Rosh Hashanah could go to the 17th. so
7th.
the-
that's 15, 16, 17.
yes.
Yeah, technically, and then the evening of the 24th and the 25th.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we think if we can get this, so that first week of September 5th,
That would be the latest mailing we've done. When do you, well, a lot of this depends, we have to get to a printer for this. This is going to be bigger than our printing capability.
Okay.
So part of it is going to involve our engagement of a printer, and we're already talking to them, trying to work with who can do this effectively.
Okay.
And so we'll figure that out, hopefully by the time we come together again next week. I hope we have identified our printer and their schedule.
it's,
Don, is there anything more that you'll be having is any time in September too soon for you, or no?
No, we can make it. Yeah. We'll,
Okay,
we'll have our graphics and stuff together. Just
okay. All right, even the last, I gotta look at my calendar. Today's what?
Today's the 16th of August.
I'm looking at the wrong month, 16th, 23rd. We could even potentially hit the printer. We'll get out as soon as we can. We'll look to the Labor Day period as the latest, not the earliest.
Yeah. That's what I had suggested.
Do you have everything
To-
for your next meeting?
to have a mailing,
To have a mailing,
yeah, okay.
right.
Which
So
makes
could-
sense.
could
People
we-
are back in school.
We finalize the mailing next week, vote on it, and then send it out after next week's meeting?
That's what I was thinking.
Could
Right.
we also email them at the same time? Do both?
Yeah, I intend that we should email them. I think we'll have a QR code on the email, certainly, for people to deal with and see it online. And, well, I guess the mailing, we don't have to bother with QR codes because they're going to physically have it. The only question is, do we, beyond the, how much material is there going to be beyond the letter and the map? In the
I think, in my mind's eye, it's the letter FAQ and map is all that goes in that, I think. I think,
So that's not an enormous,
I think it's 6 pages, maybe.
you think it's that much?
I think
Except
four
for
is not, 4 is going to be too small. What I was thinking is Rick, just like fold open the page, have one page inside and
Yeah,
fold
these
again.
FAQs
Right
go
now
on
it's
and
8
on.
pages.
You're right.
Yeah,
They
but
go
we
on
can
and
make
on.
that smaller, I think. There's a lot of space in this, and so my idea is to be 6 pages long. The back of the last page is the map.
So make a booklet.
So it's like a book. You open it, read, flip one page, read, flip again, and there's the map is in my mind. I think we can fit it to that.
Okay,
I think we should make sure we have a large enough font that, reading it isn't going to be an
Right.
issue.
I agree. So if we have to go to
for us
8, we go to
old
8.
folks.
I do, I get the feeling you're not going to like it, but I do suggest that we simply get the information. I'm concerned about the US Post Office is what I'm concerned.
Right.
about. And, we see things go out bulk mail and they don't make it. We see it goes out first class, doesn't. We've had, this is an example. We are right now dealing with a quantity of important mailings that the city sent out, checks, paying our bills that all went out, and the checks aren't getting cashed. So we're wondering, well, where are our checks? Are people that relaxed about cashing their checks? Maybe. And Sheila's following up on all this,
Yeah, I
but
looked up, people are now cashing up, but it took maybe
right.
2 or 3 weeks
it
longer
maybe
than
took 2 or
normal.
3 weeks then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were sent first-class mail.
Wow.
So I'm a little concerned, do we get an advantage? I would think we should get an advantage sending them first class, which is more expensive than bulk, which typically, particularly as we're entering a political season, they get a lot of bulk mail and they push that to the back.
Right.
Although there used to be a rule that if it was political mailing, it sort of was preferred bulk mail.
Hmm.
And they would advance that so far as their processing.
I think
If council wants to consider it, I thought our survey technique of sending a postcard to everyone with a QR code said, here it is, go find it. And
I think
like I said, I don't know if you're gonna like it.
No, I think we'll
but
receive the
that
same
gets it.
criticism that, and I think that we need to do this with a mailing to every household. This
I
is
think a
worth
visit to
it.
the post office would be appropriate. Somebody could go up there and discuss it with the, I don't know if it's a postmaster, but whoever runs the 44124 post office, they can tell you what's the best way to do it. I mean, here's something, and it's totally irrelevant. We went to a birthday party on Saturday. We got a thank you note today from somebody in Highland Heights. So, you know,
It does
first-
happen once in a
first
while.
It
class,
does, yeah. It used to be next day delivery basically locally for first class mail. I agree.
And we're getting our newspapers maybe one day late now that they're coming in the mail instead
Okay.
of delivery.
Yeah.
I'm just, my only comment was because I know everybody, without exception, wants this to get to where it's supposed to go.
The concern is, I guess, if we do it with a QR code, the same people who aren't as
Right,
savvy.
I can see that concern.
But maybe, I mean, obviously, we're going to do it electronically also. Maybe there's a way we can alert people who are more interested in paper or want both. Somehow we can alert them either with one of our signage or reverse 911 or something as, look out for, I don't know, something.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good use of it. Also,
Yeah.
can we put it on the signs like you put your movie in the park and all
Yeah,
that stuff, get it
just-
out there?
Have people be on the lookout for.
Well,
And
that, and
maybe
then
have
our
some-
town halls too.
In our town halls. We can have some extras available. We should have it at the town halls. And here, we can let people know, oh, it didn't show up. I mean, we don't have to print a million, Sheila,
They could be in
as
the
it
lobby
comes.
with all
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
flyers.
And if people grab them, then, we can make more. We don't have to wait.
Okay.
Is
All
it
right,
too
We'll
ambitious?
work on that, making sure
Can
that
we
it
deliver
gets
it?
how it is.
Is it too ambitious to shoot for the Wednesday or Thursday of the first week in September for the first town hall?
Yeah, let's get back to the dates. I think that the week of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th day, that may be aggressive to have it in the mail and delivered and comfortable that it's been in the mail.
I think the 11th should be fine.
I agree. That's what I would go for the
I
first
agree.
one.
Now that you say that out loud, yes.
I will tell you, September 11th, there is for sure a Board of Ed meeting at Pepper Pike Learning Center, just
Yeah,
because I have the
6
school
p.m.
calendar up. But if we have other locations, that's fine, but I know that their boardroom would be in use.
Yeah.
Not that that should dictate when we're doing it, but just as a.
No, we just won't be in their board meeting room.
Right, exactly.
The library has a meeting room too, right?
And I think
Yeah,
it
they
might be
do.
tiny.
It's not huge. but-
Yeah, I did, there are different rooms at the schools. There's Brady Middle School cafeteria where there are events that happen there.
Okay,
I don't know if the
September
high school
11th.
auditorium's available or not.
Yeah,
That's something to
it's a
look at.
nice- But it has good sound.
So we'll figure it out. We'll find a spot.
Okay, so
And,
Monday.
And as a fallback, we'll look for our friends at Ursuline College. Maybe they have
Oh, yeah.
a space.
Well, that's a
that they
nice
can let
idea,
us
too.
utilize. So we'll find a space. I have some confidence in that.
Yeah.
And,
I do it on-
So you
Is it worth trying to?
so
do
let's
some
pick a
sort of
date. Let's figure out the dates and then we'll figure out the space.
I agree. So let's pick, it's 11th or 12th?
Not the 12th.
Not the 12th.
All right.
Mayor,
Let's do the 11th. Yes,
is it,
sir.
is it worth, and I think it is, having some sort of a live stream of this be available online?
If we can figure out how to do
We
it.
can figure out how to do it.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine with me.
And then we put the
The recording
recording on the,
will live forever.
and ever, and ever. That's fine.
So are we agreed on 11th?
If you, thank you, because we're obviously going to depend on
I can,
your technology.
I can
skills.
investigate what it's going to take, and
We'll figure it out.
we can at least get it up there. It may not be perfect, but it'll be there.
Right.
And a microphone on the podium for the question for the,
Absolutely.
that was, I think, lacking at the one.
Correct.
Oh,
Great,
so
Scott.
yeah, so you can
Oh,
hear the
recording
question
comment.
because otherwise the answer is like just hanging out
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
And that should actually be pretty easy.
Okay. That sounds like
As long
a good
as-
idea.
As long as things work.
As long as the technology works, it works. Okay.
Scott, you got this.
All right, so we'll do that.
But you
All
never
right,
know
so
what
let's
you
go
get.
back to the dates, everyone.
So 11th,
The 11th sounds good to me.
good to me.
Consensus on 11th?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
How about the 3 o'clock on the, wait, no, not that day. So 16th is closed. I'm thinking of a weekend date here.
I will not be around the weekend of the 15th at all.
But we could do like, if we did a Saturday, the
23rd.
23rd.
Fine with me.
I won't
So,
be here.
so if we, so then do we do, so Saturday,
That's,
23rd?
I just won't be there on Saturday, the 23rd, that's all. I have something that commits me.
We
that
do
day.
Saturday the 30th?
Do we have to
we
do it
can
on
do
a
the same.
Saturday, this
or
day
Sunday?
of the week one?
I think we wanted to do a weekend day and a during the week day for the evening.
For, it was suggested for people who perhaps with
Can't drive.
limited driving,
At night.
that we did an afternoon-ish.
All right,
But October.
it's not the end of the world. if
Could
I'm
you
not
do the
there.
30th, Mayor?
That's Fall Fest.
Oh, it is Fall Fest. Could we just hijack Fall Fest? Just kidding.
We can do it before or after Fall Fest.
Well, we're out of time in terms of the 9/22 mail-in comes out. So you've got your mail-in ballot on 9/22. So ideally, we'd like to knock these off before that.
Mhm.
even though
I
don't
think,
know.
Jim, aren't we still, people will have the material in their hand. And they have 3 choices to attend.
Right.
So I'm not sure we need.
How about
to-
9/9 or 9/10? Or actually, I'm not.
I think you've got a little bit of flexibility there. In other words, we are assuming everybody will attend.
For the
Every
weekend meeting.
citizen. Some may
Is there
reason
fun or
that's
The
perfectly
10th?
content with what you provided.
You want to do it on 9/9?
I don't
No,
think
no,
Sunday's
not
good.
a Sunday.
It's a mailing issue. As long, can we crank it out so they have it in their hands? That's,
They'll have it. They'll
if we
know
can
it.
do that, then that's fine with me. And do it 9/9.
Probably won't get it.
Let's figure 9, that's the afternoon one.
Go out on-
Unless we just push it to 9:30.
or
That's,
even on
that's
the
much
first.
later.
She said that's
That's
Harvest
Fall
Fest.
Oh, it's the.
Fall
harvest.
Fest, but if, what time does that, oh, that starts earlier.
Yeah, you guys have
Mail
the
on
planning for Fall Fest, right?
Yeah, it
It's
starts at
limited
3.
to when,
Three. Yeah.
when they'll.
I have
accept
Harvest Fest is the
something back in
24th.
mail.
What's that?
Did that get moved?
Mm.
Harvest
moved.
Fest is the
Yeah,
24th?
moved.
Got moved to the
It's on the
30th.
But
30th.
I mean, you
Oh,
can mail it
yeah,
any
you
time.
can.
Okay, that was,
'Cause
I was going
never
off that
put
when I
mail
made
in,
this,
always
so that was,
put
okay,
it post.
gotcha.
So where do we have it now?
We're trying for the 9th. Do you think we can get it
9/9
done?
daytime,
What,
9/11.
what time on the 9th?
I think it would be that
3
3 o'clock.
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
I won't be here, but
So Saturday 9th at 3 would be the first meeting.
I'll be absent.
9 to 3.
What day?
At
Not-
Saturday
not
the 9th
Oh,
at 3.
So 9/9.
at 3.
If you like.
Yeah,
Let me crank that up a little.
Saturday 9th at 3, we're going to pencil that one in?
we'll need to.
You think 3 o'clock in the afternoon is a good time to do something on a Saturday?
I think earlier in the.
I think that's a terrible
Would a
time. for
Sunday
people.
work?
You want to do it at 10?
Sunday
Oh, we could do a Sunday. We could do,
9/10?
I like Saturday better, but
Yeah.
Yeah, some people will object to it.
either way.
Listen, we're going to get people objecting on Saturday, we're going
Football.
to get people objecting on Sunday.
Football?
Football is 10th.
When's the Ohio State games?
Yeah.
We're going to get football
teasing.
complaints,
I'm teasing.
religious complaints.
yeah.
That's what happens with
Yeah.
weekends.
I can't be there on the
If you
9th, but
do
it
the-
doesn't matter. We all don't need to be in attendance. We
Yeah.
just need to. have
How about
a
the
good
9th
person in
at 10
attendance.
o'clock?
It's good with me.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
9 at 10.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Maggie's birthday.
We're gonna do it morning?
Why not? Sounds good.
Sure.
Well, we're objecting to football time, so there's no football games on at 10, I don't think.
Fair enough, Tony.
Right?
So.
So do we want to schedule a third one?
I think we do if we're already starting the other two so early.
Yeah.
Because some people might not either they might not get it or they might not know that it's going on. I don't think we can front load it so much, so maybe we put it all the way to like the 30th.
So
What's
how,
the-
well,
what's the second-
well,
What's the
9/11
second
one?
date? I missed the second.
9/11 was
9/11
at 7
and
PM, I
What time is-
believe.
9/9 and
7 p.m.?
9/11?
Yeah,
Thought
9,
that
9 and 10
that's-
a.m., 9/11 at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah,
10
in
a.m.
either that first week of October.
Yeah, we could go into October.
Why not do it earlier? Why wait that long? Because
Last week of September, because the mail-in votes go out on the
We
22nd.
could do it that last week
how about the
Last week.
18th?
or the first,
September
either
30th.
one I think works, just
When are our meetings?
What about the 19th?
19th?
because I don't think we want to front load them too much
about
because
September
Yeah, like
September
I kind of see this
23rd or
as
30th.
the conversation is
30th
going to
is the
continue
fall.
through the month. And I think that we should meet the needs of that by doing it a little bit later.
how did you have it on your?
I would, so
You can do it, if the third one wants me on 20, I just won't be there. I don't.
On what day? On the,
23rd.
How about October
I just-
2nd? Then it's a little bit spread out. And that's such a, at least on my calendar, and I
That
checked some of
Monday,
the
do you wanna have
school,
both
I mean, I didn't
Mondays?
verify.
Like,
Do you see anything on
Is that
the
a
Day of the
planning
week?
meeting?
nothing's on.
Is that a planning meeting?
October
Yeah,
2nd.
that first
What-
week of
Early
October is
voting's like
always a
the
quiet.
11th.
The 19th is planned.
Planning is October 2nd, I believe.
Well, why don't we do this on the 19th?
The 19th of.
September.
I feel like we're front loading it so much.
I agree.
How
I
about
think,
the
I
last
think we
week of
should have at least
September?
2 weeks between the 2nd and the 3rd.
So maybe we just start on the 11th and then kind of like go in a diagonal.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Like,
We've got the
20,
9th,
how about
the
26th?
What's
That's
wrong
the-
with the 30th?
Oh, that's, yeah,
Fall
not fair, it's Monday.
30th is Fall Fest.
Oh.
What
And
day
what-
of the week is the 26th?
26th is Tuesday, the
Tuesday.
26th.
Mayor?
Yeah, that works.
26th?
I'm okay with the 26th.
Tuesday, the 26th at 7?
7.
okay.
I'm gonna be exhausted, but
Okay.
40 people.
9/9, 9/11, 9/26. 10 a.m., 7/7.
All right, and we'll
Except
start
for
working on,
availability.
we'll start working
20
on
people at night.
locale.
Just one note, those are both the Board of Education meeting dates, just the 9/11 and 9/26.
You don't think it's a little weird to do it? Okay, people are just, it's just it's just a rough week, but okay.
Oh, month's pretty busy.
What do you think?
Couldn't hear you.
I mean, it's just a rough week. If you're Jewish, if you go to services the 24th till late and don't eat, and then I don't mean to be specific to me or someone similarly situated. And the next day you don't eat all day, and then you have a big family gathering on the 25th, and then you're going to go out again. And I don't know, it's fine. I mean, and a lot of the people, maybe it's not applicable.
Well, I think the same sort of problem, though, every day has its own challenges.
Yeah.
Because Saturday, doing something at Saturday at 10 o'clock,
Mhm.
there'll be people who will be I don't know if they'll be objecting, they'll be unable to participate
Sure,
because
sure.
there'll be
All
Sabbath.
all the more
Yeah,
reason
yeah,
we're
yeah.
having,
No, I
Same on a
was just-
Sunday, though.
I was
That-
just-
that'll
I
be-
was just
unless we
thinking
do
about
Jim's
logistically.
suggestion of moving to the afternoon, which may solve
but
temple
but-
and church
but
And
bear in
there's
mind,
together.
we're having
Days
3
off,
meetings,
are there?
all right?
A
So
lot.
if one day they can't make it, they can make it one of the other 2 days. And if they can't make all 3, that's just, I'm sorry, we've done everything we can do at that
I
point.
think we've put in a good
I
effort.
was just making
The
sure.
28th is not a council meeting day, correct?
I have to look.
Or is that the
The
20th?
27th
The
is, the
27th.
28th is not.
And there are no teacher days or
Another reason to
anything
keep it
that we
Tuesday,
know about,
26th.
correct?
Yeah.
No,
That's a
Yeah,
We can do
council
something
day
on the
27th?
28th. We can do something on the
usually
28th.
Usually they'll do a training.
What's the difference between because Melanie was concerned about the 26th. Can we move to the 28th?
Should Thursday?
What if
6 is
we,
half dozen. We can do that.
what if we do one in September for early voters, one in October to keep it relevant, and then one right before or no?
I'd like to get them done.
Get them all
Yeah.
Is
done?
28 better than the 26th?
Is 28th okay with everyone?
I can make
Probably
either.
won't make it.
I'm,
I mean,
I'm
I'll
happy
be,
with
I'll be
either.
wherever you guys,
Thursdays.
I
are
think
better.
I'm gone, but
well, then let's just do the
26th work for-
26th.
can everyone be there on the 26th?
I
Yeah,
can.
Let's just do the 26th.
Yeah.
I know I can.
that's
make that.
fine. It's fine.
Good. 26th. We good? Going once, going twice?
Those dates are fine. Everyone good?
Right.
We're good.
Okay.
And it will be
So
written.
9/9, 9/11, 9/26.
All right, and the daytime one is the 9, right?
Uh-huh. The other two are at 7 p.m.
10 PM. Yep. Okay.
10 a.m.
10 a.m., 10 a.m.
I will respectfully ask if we can start working on locations that the location could then be put into that letter.
Right.
That would be
Like I said, we're gonna
awesome.
work
We'll
on
work
those.
on
Right.
it.
I'm just making a record of it.
So let's talk just a little bit about format for the town hall in particular. In my mind's eye, it's all of us. Well, first of all of us are going to sign this as facsimile signature. Everyone's comfortable with that? Is everyone good with that? Because I think it should come from council and the mayor collectively. And then I'm thinking for the town hall, some town hall, it's welcome. We're glad you're here. Let's have your questions. I
No,
think it's
I think we need a presentation.
That's
I
what
think
I was
that
gonna
man makes a
I think we
presentation.
start with maybe your introduction, a presentation of, some slides that showing the map and, and then just open up to questions.
Yeah.
And then, and I would like all of us to be up front, all 7 and the mayor. And so they can ask anyone questions they want.
Right.
And from that, it's just Q&A for an hour, or however long it takes, right?
Yeah, let's plan on an hour to an hour, not more than an hour.
Hour and a half. Yeah, I agree.
And
So maybe
if
2
we-
hours for the whole event because a half an hour for presentation and then an hour, hour and a half
What-
for questions.
I don't think the presentation takes a half hour.
10 minutes,
10
right?
minutes.
10 minutes.
Right.
And Don, you were available for all those dates, correct?
Yeah, we
I
just,
sh- I
we
should
scheduled
be-
dates.
I
we
might
got
Did
asked
we
them
ask
to-
you?
I might become a grandparent to twins right around.
Wait,
It's
that's
too hard
awesome.
to say exactly.
Well, that's a real thing, though.
Well,
When-
can-
when-
we have
My
to
when-
team,
when does
there,
that
I
happen?
have other licensed professional engineers that could be here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so somebody could represent
Yeah.
on the engineering
Yeah.
side. Okay,
Bring the
that's
twins
important.
with
I'll bring the
Yeah.
twins with me.
First,
Aw.
first two.
Wow.
Oh, can't miss that.
When is that event supposed to happen?
We're around October 1. So
Okay, so you'll be past this probably.
we should be fine.
No walking around the block and
First
everything.
1 or 2 of these meetings, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, okay.
Early.
Twins usually come.
So the last thing, dates, logistics for the meeting, mailing. The last thing is just kind of, we had some conversation about publicity on this. The sign idea is a great idea, among other things. So the mailing on the website, is there any other things that we want to put in the queue for publicity?
In our newsletter.
In the newsletter?
Newsletter,
Pepper Pike Post?
City website.
Website, obviously.
The website looks nice.
Yeah. it
New-
looks
Pepper-
good.
It should be in the
website.
Pepper Pike Post. as
Pepper
soon as
Pike Post,
possible.
yep.
I'm sure all of our social media friends, pro and con, will be all about
Yeah.
making sure that's up.
But yeah, we could.
So we'll post this, make the walkability, so we'll send out maybe an email, the huge email list saying the walkability information has been posted. So you can go get it if you want to. At the same time, we're
We
mailing
can
this
get that out, significantly before.
in advance, right?
Okay.
All right.
And that way people will at least be alerted to it.
Well, That's close to 3,000 mailings going out.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And we have to make sure that it's really easy to find on the website. I mean, really easy.
It's going to be very easy.
And
The
is
other-
I
that
agree, it
3,000
will be very easy.
3,000 homes or 3,000 people?
3,000 addresses.
Addresses and.
Email address? Oh,
No, for the mailing.
Homes.
3,000
Email addresses.
email addresses.
And one thing I was, do you think on our envelope, I don't want it to seem like some kind of nondescript piece of junk mail. Is there any way we could have like a
Seal.
Yeah.
return address, some kind of city of
No,
Pepper
just-
Pike?
We're going to have to work, we're working right now to your point exactly. How do we make this this is for real, you should open this.
Yeah,
And we'll have that.
the right, yeah.
Yeah.
the right-
You may have already won.
Now, we put a logo
Ed McMahon.
Send out.
on the outside of the envelope. It says walkability information included, Pepper Pike walkability information on the outside of the
Official.
envelope, just so, something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, like a,
So that doesn't
Yeah.
get thrown out with the
Right,
junk mail.
right now, because of the thickness, we're looking at, and we've been talking to the vendor who does our service department newsletter. This is a little thicker than that. whatever the cost is, I guess, is
Yeah.
what council,
It's
am I supported in that? That,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have to do
Yeah.
it right.
yes, we have to do this right. And first class too, now, so.
okay.
As Mr. Dogger would
We'll have
say,
to
it's a
figure out
small
what
percentage
budget.
of the city's budget.
Not mine.
He said,
Oh, no, I mean,
I'm
that's-
totally.
it's a,
Yeah,
it's a
it is.
wise thing,
It's-
is you look at it, what it is, a
worthwhile.
percentage of the city's budget and determine, it's generally pretty small.
It just has to fit into some column, that's all. Okay,
So this
That's-
is,
so we'll meet again next week. Get this process stuff tuned up. Get it clean to everyone, and we can, in the meantime, we will be going forward with the other planning things we need to so far as getting this thing
Sheila, will you
printed.
figure out how
The
we
printing
can put it,
schedule
all
is
have
gonna
our
be an
signatures
issue.
on there somehow?
That's the biggest.
yeah, well, and there's going to be a lot of
Probably
things,
won't be
materials that are being
here.
printed this time of year. Like with,
Printed in what?
there's going to be a lot of materials being printed this time of year. This,
Right.
traditionally election
Right,
time
right.
is
That's why
very
I
busy
want to
for-
Get in the
For
queue.
that.
get in the queue. for this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm
Right.
glad that we're moving ahead. I have one question about on the on our city website, which I did notice the updates on it. I happened to go to the walkways discussion, and there's a something on here called the walkability update, and there was nothing that ever like came across our, like everything on here, like the FAQ, the pedestrian connectivity memo, the walkway survey results, like they're all things that we've seen as a council. And then there's this walkability update. I didn't know where that came from.
We
That it
just
has like a
generated a summary of a single council meeting. We haven't tried to keep up with that. It's just too much.
Okay, I feel like
Maybe-
it's superfluous, like that it doesn't really belong there. What, did the city create that? Like, I never
Yeah,
saw it, and I was
our
like, what is this?
members of our communication committee did create that, yes.
Well, maybe now that we have,
It's
well, once we
outdated.
get our FAQ finalized, maybe we could,
Now that we've moved it to referendum, I don't know that it's necessary that we have that on there. Because it talked about like our process as a council and like we've achieved
Yeah, it was a
that.
summary of a meeting, if I recall.
Have we ever done that before though? It seemed very odd to me.
Yeah, well,
It's a little outdated too. It should have just.
at this, yeah, there's.
Yeah.
I would agree
yeah,
at
so
this
maybe
point
we pull that or
It's
have it
historic
archived
in-
somewhere.
In nature, but. Okay,
Yeah, because
We'll
I'd like
take
it
a
to be the current information of what we're sharing so that like the facts are there, we know who they're coming from, what's presented, that it's accurate. And that just felt out of place to me when I went to see the other documents on there. So
okay.
we could address that.
Well, plus we really want people to look at this.
Yes.
So, I
Look
mean.
at what? I'm sorry.
look
What
at
Jim has worked
what-
so hard
all
on.
What we're
Yeah,
sending. We
yeah,
want that,
I want,
that's,
once that thing's finalized, we were putting drafts of that on and we stopped doing that too. Because it's like, you couldn't, it was
Right.
becoming more confusing
Yeah,
than
yeah.
anything, putting, you know,
so this could be the
tweaky
sole document.
revisions.
This should be the sole document. This is the
yeah,
guiding
we'll clean
document.
it all up once we have a document to post.
Post it, yeah. I didn't want to post it till we're all done with this process,
Right,
but once
right.
we're happy with it, then yeah, right up there.
Right.
Yeah.
When it's going to mail, it can go on there too.
Dr. Wong.
Just a suggestion, maybe once we get everything finalized, whenever you go onto the city website, we get that pop-up that says stay informed. Maybe we could adjust that so it's like walkability, town hall meetings, and some click and hyperlinks to that because everybody will look at that.
That's interesting.
I don't know, like
That
Just-
pops up
it
right away.
pops up right
Yeah, you
away
can't
when
get
you
rid of
come
it.
on until you
Then you
exit
can, you
out.
can say you never want to see it again.
I have it.
It
It
still pops
Still
up.
comes up?
It still comes up every time.
It just
Yeah.
comes up.
I don't know, just a
I'll
thought.
talk to. I'll
It's
bring up
not a
the
big
subject
deal.
to,
Yeah.
uh,
I
It's
think
not
it's-
There
a
were
web
things to
mistress.
click.
I think it's a good idea.
I'll talk to the webmasters.
I
Once
think
it's
that's,
finalized.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I like it.
Have it pop right up.
I like it. Yeah.
In fact, that should be a regular feature of the website, is something that's important should pop up.
That's a good point.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm good.
All right.
I mean, just as long as we're talking about walkability, any Gates Mills updates, I'm just gonna keep asking because I'm,
We're we're about to get to that, so your time.
Oh, okay.
Can I just ask one quick question? Before this mailing goes out, is Dawn gonna let us know like the suggested side of the road, or is that
No.
just like not
That's to follow.
anything?
No, that's to
Okay.
come. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, anything else on this process? Okay, we will move on then. Committees. We have any committees to report? I'm kind of lost in time and space here.
We have planning and zoning.
We do have planning. so-
Yeah, it just seems like we always have planning and zoning. All right. We had a site plan discussion from the Cleveland Racket Club. They are discussing adding another tennis building technically for pickleball. There was discussion about the mound that's behind it, about potentially replacing some trees that had died, and dealing with a now basically defunct oil well on the property. There were quite a few neighbor comments, and this was kind of very preliminary. But there are drawings which are pretty interesting if anybody wants to see. The other item that came up which was interesting, and I'll only go into it briefly because it will be, I think, probably for review by council because it's a conditional use, correct? Yeah, so that's apparently for review by council. It has to do with Pepper Creek and someone trying to address erosion of the side of the creek where they have a long in place outbuilding that's actually a pool house. So there was a lot of engineering information. Some neighbors came, and we're supposed to get some more engineering type information, which will help us understand impacts of them trying to do this, which is to protect their property, but we want to understand impacts of adding basically these concrete block type structures that look like stone, but somewhat pretty much into the creek. So we will be hearing, I think, more about that in the coming months. That's my understanding.
The resident who is applying for it has a very severe erosion problem. And the creek is aggressively over the last 5 years apparently moved towards structures on his property. And the engineer that he's retained, their plan is to basically armor the side of the creek, which is nice, and it'll stop that, and it needs to somehow be addressed. But there was there was good questioning, I thought, as to what are the downstream effects, because part of his problem is perhaps because of things that have occurred farther up the creek from him. And you don't want to just, compound an issue.
And
But
there
he
are
has to be,
rules, yeah.
he has to be able to address his issue. So it's a bit of a conundrum. Don, have they gotten to you any information?
I have not seen anything yet.
I'd suggest maybe you reach out to these people so that we're not right on top of this meeting with you not being able to study all this engineering, because
See if-
the residents seem to be a little panicked about what was going on, and he
Yeah.
really wants to stop.
And just as a full disclosure, as you know, I live just on Pepper Creek, just a few doors down. So I'm very aware of the aggressiveness of the creek and how it's moved. And I know these people, they're trying to do it in a very well-engineered, very nicely done way. The question is it okay? Because it does obviously fall in our riparian setback. It's impacting the creek. But it's also impacting a part of their property that has been there maybe for 40 or 50 years. So
Yeah.
it's not as if they just erected a building and now, want to change.
And not trying to prejudge, and I know you're not, we're not trying to prejudge it, that it may be the greatest engineering solution in the world that they've come up with. And it may simply be a matter of our engineers signing off and saying, this is good, this is what they need to do. But they need to get the calculations as to what they're doing to our engineer. They had sort of approached it a little conclusively, I think the commission felt, as to what was their plan. So it may be a great plan, and I'm not trying to be negative regarding it.
No.
Since it's part of like the creek system, would anybody from the county or state be able to help out? Or
This
no?
is not, this creek does not drain 300 acres.
It's not a big one.
No, well, it does. They've talked to Regional Sewer District and they will not help participate with this. So,
And it is, I mean, it would be interesting, just so everybody understands how the water moves. If you ever want to see a good video, I mean, there's some presentation and just to understand how damaging water can be and how aggressive it is. And it just demonstrates all the projects we're doing are, I think, making an impact, but it's small impacts one at a time. And it's a significant problem that we need to be kind of continuously aware of.
Okay, thank you, Melanie.
I have
Uh,
a quick question, sorry, on the pickleball discussion, because I've read so much news about the noise situations, was that discussed?
Well, and that's one of the neighbors actually, I think, and it came up, we were actually talking about it before, that this is an interior building. So
Not a
basically,
factor?
so not a factor because it's inside. If it had been outside, it could be a problem. And so the neighbors, I think, were relieved about that. They wanted to understand what view they would have from their properties on Bryce, which is behind. And there were some trees that are supposed to also block it. Some of them had died. So the question was, would that be part of the plan, replacing some of those or adding whatever? But I think the idea is to limit the sound and also obviously to have more indoor space. But if you ever drive by, you'll see it's very similar, and I can show you the drawings, to the some of the tennis structures that they currently have. It's basically supposed to match those white, big buildings.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Department heads.
Outage map check's clear right now for that power outage that we had. They might still be on scene, but it should be near completion if not every house has power back.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me say, when the power went out, I called our contacts at Illuminating Company to see what was going on, and received a message back that, oh, they're heading out to a substation area to look at it. And I was able to share with them that the chief, along with a member of our fire department, had been at the scene already, not where they were heading, somewhere else, which was at the intersection of Brookwood and Lander, where a piece of equipment on a pole was actually observed on fire and sparking and by a resident, and that's why our forces had responded. And when I was able to share that information, because the chief had informed me, the power company was very appreciative, because that immediately zeroed them in on a location instead of trying to track through their substation where this could be occurring. So I thank the chief and congratulate both departments for their rapid response to that power outage. Anything else on that table? Okay. Welcome back, Mr. Advent. Hope you had a good few days visiting the grandkids.
I have nothing to report.
Somehow the department carried on.
They did wonderful. We did have a lot of, I was in constant contact.
You were out of state, and I was still getting emails from you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. As we turn to the engineer, we do have, I'm going to let him handle some of this, but I'm going to make some announcements myself. I'm very pleased to inform council and the public that the State Controlling Board has approved the ODNR grant to Pepper Pike, and that we are soon to be the approved recipients formally of the $500,000 Gates Mills grant. And we'll be proceeding with that as we've previously discussed. We have some other good news that through Don's heavy lifting, I'll let him explain this better. We have received another grant from the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for support of an additional sewer line, sanitary sewer line. And that will be on
Belgrave.
Belgrave. I'll let Don comment on it, but this is a grant that we had applied for a few years ago, a couple of years ago, and had been denied. So it was an off year of our being able to get a grant. Just a reminder, these grants are not guaranteed everything all the time, that there are going to be pauses as regarding our receipt. Don, the grant is for how much money?
It's $844,000.
So it's a nice grant, $844,000. So that will be a future project that will be teeing up at an appropriate time as we move through things. Obviously, we're still working on the one right outside our door.
Right, we officially, we'll go through our paperwork, but we won't be able to start on it until January 1st of '24 would be the soonest that we could actually start doing any design work based on the funding. And then there's an approval process that we have to go through, so.
So does that come after the permits?
2A, yeah.
After 2A and 2B? Or
Well, 2A is Plymouth, Providence, Concord, Edgewood, Forest, that area.
that's all?
That's all, we're calling that 2A.
It was 2A and 2B? or-
We,
but now it's
2B covers a chunk that we don't have funding for yet.
Okay, so that's 2A. Okay.
2A, and then the next one would be this Belgrave.
Belgrade, okay.
And we're not going to need a new pump station for this.
No, Belgrave ties into a pump station we have on Kerrsdale Road. So
Okay.
it's not a huge project, but it's about 40 homes. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, so that's rough numbers, $20-ish thousand per household. So that's a lot.
So it's great support for those households.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Thank you.
we've timed it with some of the pavement maintenance, so it's a street that we would be likely doing some work on resurfacing over the next couple of years, so it's a good timing for that too.
And will this cover all of Belgrade, the whole?
It covers all of it, I believe, east of Brainerd. There's actually a little extension on Belgrave that has like 4 houses on it, and it does not go over there. Topography issue. West of Brainerd.
East of.
So this is, from that point, from there to there.
East of Old Brainerd,
East of Old Brainerd, correct,
Right, okay.
to the intersection with Kerrsdale.
Kerrsdale, okay.
All right, that's great. And again, always thank you to our outstanding engineer who keeps his eye on the ball of making these very important applications to regional sewer on behalf of the city. Thank you, Don. We could not be doing this, accomplishing this without your efforts. Tell us how Shaker Boulevard is going.
They are back working on storm sewers right now. They're making good progress, marching up the street. We are hoping to have them out of here within the next couple of weeks. Then we did bid out the paving work. So I'll have that in front of council to hopefully award that bid next Wednesday for the Shaker Boulevard resurfacing program. And that would start mid-September and it'll go pretty quick. It'll be very similar to what they're doing on Southwood.
Okay.
We're also bidding out that Edgewood water line piece, and we'll open those bids on Friday as well. So we'll have a couple things hopefully on council's radar next Wednesday.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Well, that's engineer reports stole most of my thunder. So the biggest news that I have to report is Perspective, that this Sunday we will be having our annual ice cream social. I hope everyone will grab their significant others and their children of all shapes and sizes for a really fun event. Hopefully the weather will favor us I don't know that it is or isn't actually. What is the weather?
It's supposed to be nice.
It's supposed to be nice? Great,
High pressure.
great. I know our departments have been working really hard on this to get ready. So as always, there'll be pony rides. Thank you, Mr. Shi, who always supports our pony ride effort. Is that the daughter who's about to have twins?
Yes, it is. Yes,
All right. Don has a nice memory of his daughter riding ponies, and he generously supports her pony rides every year. It should be a really good time. This is really a very, very fun family event, so I hope everyone can be there. The week after, we'll be closing out our music program on August 31st. I think it's in your Pepper Pike Post with what is, they've been here a few times before, a reggae group, John Messenger, and it's probably the most well-attended music event that we schedule. People really have fun at the reggae event, so come on out for it. And with that, I'll turn it over to City Council. Any comments? Yes.
Any update on maybe moving forward with council chambers or the outdoor bathroom or anything like that?
We've been looking at actually both those items. So yes, I don't have anything to report back to council at this point, but yes, we are actually looking at both of those items.
Perfect.
And we'll report back. The that's all I can tell you. That's all I really know right now. So anything else?
I had a resident reach out that she had to take a ride with Pepper Pike's Finest in the ambulance to the hospital. And she commented on an experience that was scary, but so calming because our first responders did such a nice job. And she asked me to thank all of them on her behalf. So great job, good feedback. And I do want to remind everybody of the OCER event this Saturday, fireworks. It's on Orange School's campus, family friendly. If you would like to attend, it should be another fun event. Lots of family events this weekend. And then you can go to the ice cream social the next day. Really just have a banger of a weekend.
We're closing out summer. Anything else? Anyone? Okay. Any audience comments or see you next week? Yes, go ahead.
I'm Lisa Stufka. I live at 30449 Shaker Boulevard. I'm on the northeast corner of Shaker and Lantern. I have a few questions and some concerns. The first question is regarding the sewer project. I'm wondering when my lawn will be repaired, because when they did an initial repair, and I brought this up before, whatever soil they use, it's like quicksand, and we cannot put the lawnmower on it, it sinks. And going forward, it needs to be repaired. I should not have to bear the cost to repair that soil. They took all my clay away, and whatever they put down is not okay. So I would like to know when that's going to be done. And I know that there are some of my neighbors who have not had that repaired yet. So my concern is I shouldn't have to pay for that if that's part of this plan. Along those lines, at a meeting a couple meetings back, I learned that there was a surplus of $15 million in the city budget, city coffers. That number may not be accurate. And if that is in fact the case, I don't understand why the 88 residents of Shaker Boulevard have to pay upwards of $30,000 out of our pocket to pay for the sewer construction regarding the sewer installation in the street and the hookup station on our property, and then we have to pay to hook up from the hookup station to the house. If we have $15 million surplus in the coffers, I believe that the city should pay at least for the street construction for each of those homes, as well as the hookup station to the cost of about $21,000 per family. For those 88 families, it would be under $2 million. And then I think it's fair that if that I pay for the hookup from my house to the hookup station. But to pay that exorbitant amount is not, when we didn't have a voice in having that project done, it's an that's 40% of my annual income to have to pay that. And I brought this up before, that I have to continue to work. I would love to be able to retire someday, but I have to continue to work to pay for this project that I didn't have a voice in, that I didn't want, that I think that is irresponsible, that if there's $15 million in the city coffers, why I have to pay that $30,000 and why any of the 88 residents. So I think that that should be readdressed. Then somebody said something about Plant 2A, Plymouth Concord Providence, related to some sewer project, and they're gonna get $20,000, which will help them. I don't know any more details about that because that wasn't really discussed in detail, but I'm feeling an inequity here regarding the sewer situation in my neighborhood. I'm also concerned that if we have a referendum for the sidewalks, or for, as you call them, walkability paths, or whatever you're calling them, that's in the referendum in November. So my concern there is a few concerns. I don't understand why the city is spending a lot of money before the referendum, before that issue has been decided, in terms of drawing plans and having the community, these meetings to address this issue when it's not a done deal yet. It seems to me like spending money before a decision has been made. And then I understand that the vote this has been designated as an advisory vote. And I'm doing some research on that, and I haven't continued my research. But what I found out was, according to the Ohio Revised Code, that an advisory vote means that we, the constituents, including you all, we get to vote on that. That's our vote on the referendum. However, this advisory language gives you all a second vote. How is that democracy? How do we get one vote and you all get two votes? Like, if we, the community, whatever the decision is, I live by that. But if you get a secondary vote, that's not democracy. That's really concerning to me. That's really something. Whatever the community votes on election day in November, regardless of what the outcome is, and I don't want sidewalks because it's going to impact my corner. I don't want them. But whatever the community decides, that's democracy. I don't feel that council should have the right, whether it's a law or not, that's a bad law, and the Ohio Revised Code, that's an ethical issue. Whatever the voters decide on that voting day, that should be the prevailing thought. And to that end, with the sidewalks, the original proposal a couple of months ago, beginning of the summer, was from Don, was that the sidewalk on Lander be placed on the east side. And he just said it was just a random choice. And then later on at another meeting, he said that the plan has to be considered the obstacles in the way. And I brought this up before, but since it has been surveying done, and I've seen it on my corner, because I've been off for the summer from teaching, and I've seen the companies out pulling up where the gas lines on Lander Road and making all those little flags up and down Lander Road. The east side of Lander Road, where the initial proposal was put forth, has the bulk of the utility poles, number one, has the bulk of the gas lines, which you can observe if you drive from Chagrin Circle to Ursuline College. You'll see those little yellow flags. And then also has the bulk of the AT&T flags, which are orange, which you will see again when you drive up and down. So to put that sidewalk, proposed sidewalk, on the east side, it's not a good idea. It doesn't make sense because of all these obstacles that are in the way. And again, I don't understand why the city's spending money on this when it's not a done deal yet. And I think that's it, and I appreciate you taking the time to let me speak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So far as I can't even begin to address all those things. Well, your first thing, I do want to get your response. So far as the restoration of the property
It will
style,
they will readdress or retop soil or rework any areas that have settled or changed, and they will do that as part of their punch list at the end of the contract.
But
They're not going to go back in and redo it. They will redress and retop topsoil all of those lots. We
when
don't
they're
bring
done,
any
can
special.
you hear him?
I
We
can hear
don't,
him,
yeah,
yes.
we don't bring any special soil that's dangerous. It's the same soil that we put down on everybody's front lawn. And
It's not-
for what it's worth, most of the connections, they dug the material out and they put that same material back in, and then they dress the top with topsoil. What happens is it does settle. There's probably 24 locations where the ground has settled down 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. It's sort of a natural construction anomaly that happens. They will come back in and top dress that with new material.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps it's the type of soil, perhaps it needs to be a fill dirt rather than a topsoil.
Okay.
Fill dirt is a little heavier,
But
probably a little more clay.
the point is,
Thank
they
you.
will address
Thank you.
your yard. Okay, you may have to wait till the end when they move in, but they will address your yard. I don't want you to be concerned about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a comment on that, just being a resident on Gates Mills that went through this, they said it takes 6 months for the soil to settle. So you shouldn't really be doing any landscaping on that soil until it settles, and then they can come down and pack it down more. So it does take a long time, but it's 6 months and then you can start working on it.
Okay.
As far as your other question about the city contributing to the sewer projects, we did decide as a council to contribute $1 million towards the Shaker Boulevard project to reduce costs. And as a resident that was first affected by this, I was in your same shoes. So hopefully we can rediscuss maybe having a maximum amount that the residents would contribute. I know other cities have done things like waiver the tap-in fee and limit the cost to arbitrary number like $10,000 per house, and the city would absorb the rest. Something that we should likely readdress at some point in time at council, because I do feel your pain. Because I mean, luckily Gates Mills wasn't over $10,000, but we do have to provide services to our residents and think about that.
Especially since there's so much of a balance in the budget. I mean, I think this is what that money part of that money should go for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Lots more else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also live on Shaker Boulevard and I'm affected, and there's.
Can you say your name for Sheila,
Sandy
please?
Lieberman. And there was a
And your
big
address,
tree,
please?
pardon me, 29277.
Thank you.
And there was a big tree that was damaged in the construction, and I've called several times, and, the person that's in charge of, from Mr. Shee's office is in charge of the project. I never heard back from her. We had someone out and he said, it takes a while for a tree to die, but it's very, they definitely can see the damage that was done, and it is starting to.
If you could please, at the end of the
And I
meeting,
sent
make
the
sure that
puzzle.
Sheila has your contact information so that Don's office or Don himself can follow up with you.
Okay.
Okay? I appreciate it.
And you said it's on the right of way, so does that mean you're responsible for the trees on the right of way?
The tree, your
This
damaged
big
tree in
is-
the right
yeah,
of way?
It's on the right of way.
Yeah, we're
a
looking
huge
at a
tree.
lot of the trees as to, what happened, where they are. Will there be a program to reestablish some of these trees? Some of them, the sewer line has to go where it goes, the storm sewer line. So some of the trees, we are looking to replace some, not a 80-foot tall tree, but to replace, it with appropriate trees in the right of way. So yes, we are.
Well, yeah, okay, so I should tell her my.
You make sure Sheila has your contact information so that
And-
Don's
and
office
Don
can reach out. Don.
definitely has it, yeah.
You'll hear from Don probably, no one else.
And, yeah, I was considering, also the 20,000 that's going for other people. I thought we got 5,000 for ours that the city was
That's all
paying.
anyone is, or this, there was a lot of things said there. The $5,000 is a reimbursement that the city has arranged through Regional Sewer District through their grant program to reimburse residents $5,000 towards their tie-in fee. Okay, it's just $5,000. I don't know what the 20,000 was. I don't know what that
If I could try to.
Yeah.
I said that we got about $20,000 per household for this new project. We also got about $20,000 for Shaker. So we've gotten that money for each of these projects. We've gotten some big chunks of money from regional sewer districts.
What Don is referring to there is if you took the amount of the grant and distributed it per household, what the value of that grant is per household. What the grant does is basically pay for half of the cost, rough and dirty, of the project, okay? Of what a resident gets assessed money for the installation of a sanitary sewer. Through the program with regional sewer, there are other streets in the city in the past who've had sanitaries, and this helps you to, puts in sanitary sewers, and the resident will pay 100% of the cost of that installation as an because it's considered an improvement on their private property, and they're assessed the money for it. And it's amortized over 20 years through the city's participation in the regional sewer district's grant program, which is a very competitive program that we try to participate in and get a grant awarded. When we receive that grant, that money that we receive is solely dedicated to defraying the cost for the resident of what the installation of the sanitary sewer would be to the resident. And that's, so when Don was talking about $20,000, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
he was talking about what the per household value of that grant would be for those households. That you won't see that $20,000. No resident see that. Will go to a contractor.
It's a lower
who's putting-
assessment though.
Right,
As a
it'll
result of
lower
the
your
lower
assessment.
It's not clarified.
It lowers your assessment. It lowers your that lowers your assessment. Right. You don't see that money. That money goes to help pay the contractor for the cost, so that you are not assessed the value of that $20,000. Okay.
What is our assessment? Isn't it?
On Shaker Boulevard?
Yeah.
What did it end up being?
17 for the.
I'm not sure, I don't want to quote what it was, but it's somewhere between $15,000 and $17,000.
Yeah,
It was
it's in
a
that
capped
range.
number that
I don't
was
remember it exactly.
agreed upon.
There are three payments. You have to pay the $17,000 for the
Yeah, but
construction.
ma'am, let me, please. Sheila, again, can communicate with you what the exact amount of the final assessment that was established will be. Okay? And we'll get that to you. Any other questions? Mr. Neff?
Made an F, the Sound Center. Just a couple quick items on here in regards to, I think that this draft letter that Jim Lemay has put together is terrific on there. It gives people the information. It also has links built into it on there, taking people directly to the data. The important thing that I wanted to, the important thing that I wanted to mention to the city website really has a lot of problems with it, right now with regards to finding data. And I passed around a sheet. Right now, for 3 years, I've been identifying that if you go to the Road and Infrastructure Committee meeting, that there's no minutes posted. There hasn't been minutes posted for the Road and Infrastructure for 3 years now. Okay, and with that, in Jim's letter, he's talking about people, going to the city website and looking for data about sidewalks and the Gates Mills Boulevard Trail and things like that. And a lot of those comments would be in the minutes of the Road and Infrastructure. Okay, so that data isn't.
No, I appreciate your pointing. If that, I'm assuming you're accurate in this, and I appreciate your pointing it out, and we'll move to correct that. It was obviously not, we missed that. I don't know how, but we'll get that posted.
So I'm just giving, a word of caution there. That's just one example right now in regards to, again, back, to this letter and the links on here. In looking at and that idea about when you go in for getting the data about this about the, the vote and the background information. If the stuff can be linked directly to, Jim's letter, or that is in one tab on the city website, all this data. Right now, the Gates Mills Boulevard multi-purpose trail has disappeared from its old spot, okay? With the new updated city website, it's now buried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs away, and you can't directly find it, okay? It's if you search and search a couple times and finally come up with one item, it'll take you and let you know where this other tab is at. It used to be a separate tab for the Gatesville Boulevard Trail. So if, again, I would suggest that maybe you put the walkability study, which since there's 2 items, A was the Gatesville Boulevard Trail, and then B is the sidewalk item. Maybe combine both of those under one, tab right now, what you're talking about for, for walkability on here. But right now, it is really hard to find that data that was there. Also, Don has 2 very good letters, on there, one with the FAQs and another one on here. But one doesn't have any dates on there, and there's another one that has a date. So right now, again, back to, you really need to look at that city website on here. You go there and you don't know which one should I be looking at, which one is the up-to-date, one, into what somebody talked about before about definitely have a tab in there that has, for historical data. And then when this one is out of date, whatever, then you move it, down on here. So people want to look at what it used to be on here. But right now, you're very confused or you don't really know which one is the, is the latest, one on there. So, Mr. Mayor, we also, a couple meetings ago, I mentioned that the ODNR grant, I could not find it on the city website. And you had identified that it was there. I've again looked for that ODNR grant. No, especially, and again, congratulations to the city, congratulations to Don, to finding that $500,000 on here. But right now, you cannot, I can't find, that grant on there. So please take a look at that, because I think that people would want to see, here was the grant that we applied for, here's how it exactly read, type of item, and why it read about the 10-foot wide, sidewalk, wide, or the 10-foot wide multi-purpose trail, wide had to be 10 feet, and other things on there. So that really, should be, part of, part of that. The last item is in regards to Jim's letter that's going to be sent out to all the residents, and it's great that it's going to be sent out to, to all the residents on here. The people have asked me the question several times, under the FAQs, you may want to put the comment about streetlights on there. People are identifying, if we get the sidewalks, are we getting streetlights as well? Or they're assuming that streetlights are coming on there. I think you may want to very, definitely say that there's no streetlights that are going to be.
Yeah, I don't recall getting that question at any of the meetings by anyone. I know it's come up historically in other contexts, but I've not heard it come up in the context of.
It hasn't come up in the other people have said something to me, 3 different times, on their regards to, well, if we go with the sidewalks, that of course is coming with streetlights. And I said, no, that as far as I know, it's not coming with streetlights.
Yeah, there's no plan to do that.
So, just that point of information for you. Then the last item under your item number 9, where it says, what is the cost of the installation of the trails? I would add on there one more item on here. You've got Lander Road, you got Shaker Boulevard on here, and you've got South Woodland on here. I would definitely add $1.2 million for the Gatesville Boulevard Trail.
Yeah, my concern about that is we've got a big grant for that and it's funded, and I realize it's part of walkability writ large.
Right.
But we're only voting on these 3 so that one's already decided upon.
I think
It might be confusing. That's my concern.
And I hear what you're saying there. The issue that I'm concerned with is that this all started with walkability, okay? And it started years ago with walkability questions coming in, and a lot of times the road and infrastructure, committee, where someone came in and said we wanted walkability. And what initially happened was the Gates Mills Boulevard program was the resolve to that question. We weren't talking about sidewalks at all. The Gates Mills Boulevard project for $1.2 million was going to be the item that, and once, take your time to read through it, but it identifies, it was making sidewalks for pedestrians and for parents with strollers and for kids learning how to ride their bike and so forth. And this was addressing a lot of the walkability item on here. And this whole thing that's being talked about, the Gates Mills Boulevard to me is definitely, part of this walkability, and that the people should be able to see that the city has already invested, $1.2 million, in that, and that, is addressing a lot of walkability, issue that people were concerned, with. Like right now, people use, Mono Street, as a walkability, item, because there wasn't any place else to walk. But the Gates Mills Boulevard item was going to be one. At least other sidewalks are just additional items to it. So I really think that is a big, I understand what you're saying and the confusion on there, but I think that because right now, what was never discussed in council was people say 74% of the people voted for sidewalks. Okay, that's the only thing the council has really discussed as part of the survey. But also in that same survey was 48% of the people said, yeah, I want a sidewalk as long as it's not in front of my house. Okay, so 48% of the people, were saying, yeah, it's great, but as long as it's not in front of my place. And that's where this sidewalk or the Gates Mills Boulevard Trail for $1.2 million that the city is spending of taxpayers' money on here, is definitely part of this walkability, and that it is being addressed. So I understand what you're saying. You review it and decide what you want to do, but I think that's a very large, question, for walkability.
Yeah, and I reference it in the letter so people know, and it's going to be on the map showing as a separate project. So people know. I just didn't want them to think, I was worried about confusion, Manny, but I understand your point.
And Jim, I think we might remedy a lot of this if we clean up what's on the website. I'm looking at it right now. Get rid of this walkability update that's there. Maybe drop down some of these other things and really just have this document. Obviously the ordinance, we need to have the ordinance, but maybe actually not have it just say certified ordinance, maybe have that at the, I don't know, rework it. So it's just a very clean.
I agree with that. And then and also to his point about having a parallel available level, having the Gates Mills as a separate, easily accessible tab with all the Gates Mills documents, including cost, on that tab so that it's easy to find.
And we can maybe see that on the same page. I
Yeah.
think there's stuff here that's old. And we can either drop it down or get rid of, like the first thing I think gets taken over by the first two items, walkability update and FAQ gets replaced by our new stuff. And then we have this pedestrian connectivity memo. We might not need that. The survey and survey responses maybe gets dropped down. And then the Gates Mills gets put on there also in its own spot. So people can kind of see, but maybe not under the title of certified ordinance number 2023-06.
There's a better way to
That's
make
not
it more
really,
accessible. Yeah.
doesn't really have a lot of buzz to that. It doesn't, your eyes then have to drop to the much smaller print.
I think it is important too to put dates on all these things. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. Everything on the internet, half it's not dated. You could be reading something that was written in 1917 or something like that. I guess not then, but old stuff. And so I agree. Put a date
Yeah,
on it.
otherwise it becomes confusing and certainly should be in order of newest and most important to oldest, because people are going to click on what they think is important. And if they click on the wrong thing, they're looking at old information, to your point.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
No, to your comment on here, I'm not sure if you mentioned the July 26th, walkability, process that Jim, talks about on here. That, because it's referred to in the letter, to make sure that this process, which is.
Gets posted, yep.
It
Okay.
is an important.
And we can have it in an archived area, just maybe we want to make sure people know the most important things. People have only so much time sometimes, and you want to highlight that.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Graham?
Luann Graham, 31437 Shaker. I have a question about, you were talking about sidewalks in South Woodland, and Shaker, and Lander, Brainerd. Why aren't they on Fairmount? it's a major street in Pepper Pike. There's close to 300 homes that are on side streets or major roads that, and they'll have sidewalks on Brainerd, they'll have sidewalks on Lander. So the people on Fairmont will still be walking in the street.
I think the short answer to your question is the 3 streets that were identified by council can correct me if I'm wrong, were identified as the 3 primary streets where initially the greatest impact and connectability might be achieved, and that's why those 3 streets were selected.
Okay, and then, Don, will Shaker be closed until it's paved?
No, it'll be open to full traffic after the sewer work is done.
Okay.
The paving is a moving operation. They clear out in the evening, and there's flaggers while they're physically doing paving and milling and things, but they clear out every day.
And then last, the first woman mentioned about the referendum vote, that if we vote on it and council doesn't like our decision, they get to override us?
The referendum is what's referred to under the law as an advisory referendum.
Mhm.
This gentleman can say it maybe more
No, that's exactly right.
precisely.
It's an
And,
advisory referendum. It lets the council know what the position of the electorate is on that day for that election.
But yes,
But
the
they-
ultimate, you're correct in your interpretation of what that means. The ultimate decision of proceeding with any walkway, any sidewalk, walking trail, however you characterize it, that is part of the council decision-making process. And that's why I half facetiously referred to it as the super survey. This is going to be where, the people through their vote is going to inform the council, which I think is what the council wants to, continue to get a better sense of what the opinion of the populace is regarding this topic. That those 3 streets are not necessarily the last and only streets that would ever receive this, but, it's not like these things go in overnight. This is a long-term play. It's got a far horizon on it, so far as, several years at least, I would think, getting these things installed, even where it's described. And if council wants to move on at some point to including other streets or even other streets before that, I don't think, council doesn't have to have a vote of the population every time it wants to do a project. That in this situation is a consideration that council wanted to proceed with for this topic, to see what this, the voting sense of the population was. And if
So,
council feels I haven't said that right, chime in,
May
but
I?
I've tried to characterize
May
it.
I say something? I've stated in this room that whatever way the vote turns out, and please, anybody correct me, that's the way we intend to vote.
is there a reason why it was made as an advisory vote?
I'll let the law director
Steve, could
answer.
Yeah, there's the amount of specificity that would be required is usually greater, like most of the time, ordinances are not enacted by popular vote. And you just don't see that often. And the council decided they wanted to get the opinion of the electorate on this issue.
So if it came down to a closed vote, so it's like 51-49, 51 and not in favor, we could come in here and you could be a vote against it, but everybody else says, yeah, we want it. And 51% of Pepper Pike then would have to take what?
Well, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think the sentiment, at least my belief is that that's why we're doing this, to have the opinion of the community, and that's how I believe we would proceed. That's my opinion. And I think that would probably be the opinion of most of council or all of council. I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody else, but I think that, you know, it also protects us if we ever had financial issues that we couldn't proceed
I think
on the other end of it.
I think we're seeking the opinion of all of our residents through the voting process because we want some guidance. And I can't imagine that once the electorate has spoken that we would go in a different direction. This is all so we can understand where the community is. Some of us have heard the objections to the surveys. Bias. It wasn't a random sample, so on and so forth. So this is the ultimate survey, and if the turnout in November is as we expected, because of all of the issues that are going to be on that ballot, I think we should have a large number of our population who can voting for it. And I just can't imagine. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I can't imagine that we would go in a different direction once the folks have spoken.
And I think the intent of getting the information out is to give people the ability to make their decision and to be aware that there's an opportunity to go vote. So that's the intention of getting kind of clean factual information, hopefully out there and getting it in people's hands, is that people will know that they have this opportunity to weigh in.
And the map that you're including in this will show where the sidewalk will be, how far into people's property?
No.
Just one straight.
They don't have.
But I think
The
furthermore,
FAQ talks to that a bit.
we had many residents speaking at the meetings, asking us for the opportunity to
I
take
think it
this
gives a
to a
clarity
vote.
to people.
So it wasn't
to vote.
just our opinion on it. We're listening to you, digesting that, and have come up with this process.
I think
So-
one of the difficulties too is, and Don, you can correct me on this one, we every time, I probably should just ask you, when you do a plan like that, I'm not going to speak because he knows what he's doing. When you make a plan like this, how specific can you get at this stage?
It's really difficult to be very specific. It requires a full design. There's a lot of surveying, physical surveying work that goes on, and finding the status of all the utilities in terms of when, say, a replacement to a gas line is going to occur, things like that. And we also look at all of the trees, site distance issues. There's a whole array of things that we need to look at to determine the best location for the sidewalk. All of this would be physically within the existing city right of way. So yes, it's in the lawn area, but it's not on somebody's private property. It's in front of that in the right of way, which is also where those utilities are that are public utilities. It's that space is what that we are going to occupy.
So I think what we're trying to do is to get the residents as close a plan as we can get without going fully ahead with it, with a total specific, to the inch design. It's a bit of the whole intent is we want to hear what you think, which is why we want to have this vote. And we're trying to get it as close to giving you as much information as we can so you can make a good decision on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Has anyone heard anything about the
Name,
Civic League?
address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Name and
Gerard
address.
Marta Savage,
Shaker Boulevard.
29600 Shaker Boulevard, Bethel, Flagler. Anyone hear anything about the Civic League? What's going on? Are they active or not active? Website's not up to date. They usually handle candidates and issues nights.
Yeah, they're active. They just sent out a whole booklet, updated booklet.
Have you heard anything about the candidates and issues?
I think they're
schedule?
No, I have not.
The booklet was obsolete. A lot of the information was incorrect. They only had 4, they didn't have any executive officers. So
No, I've had some conversations with the folks who are at this point trying to carry on the Civic League, I think would be a fair way of characterizing it. It's having some challenges right now, and they are trying to reestablish the organization to be once again a vital, vibrant organization. I'm not privy to why their challenges occurred, but obviously they're there. That's why the city put on its own State of the City address earlier in the year, because basically the Civic League dropped out of sight. I think it would be a loss to the city if we did not have that Civic League. It has served in the past a very valuable public interest, and I wish them success. I hope that the people who are still engaged with it will be successful in revitalizing it again. That's really all I know about it.
So you don't know anything about the candidates and issues?
No, I've not heard a word about the candidates and issues tonight. I hope they do, but I've not heard anything.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Gascoigne?
Hi, Jean Gascoigne, West Landerwood, and definitely the date is the only thing that needs to be finalized. There will be candidates night. The decibel, when you talk about the, just clarify quickly, the nuisance abatement, if I understood that right, that's just people, residents who their lawn gets higher than, it's
Yeah,
just-
that's typically the issue that causes
Okay.
us to have to go, after many warnings and discussions, mow their lawn, and they get billed back for it.
Yeah, good, okay. The nuisance, this is just a sidebar, or whatever you want to call it, is the decibel levels. I know for these lawnmowers throughout the whole Pepper Pike, if I understand right, it's 90 decibels for their noise for lawnmowers and blowers and things.
I'm sorry, I don't
Okay,
know that.
because you asked me once to look it up because I asked you. I may be wrong still, but I read it, and I stood on my street with my phone and my decibel gun. It's 89, these big blowers where they're blowing a few blades of grass. But anyhow, so that's a nuisance. To me, that's a nuisance. And that'd be further. The utility for the roads, for the utility lines and the flags and everything else, the trees for this west side, east side. I guess I just wonder, and somebody can talk to me later, is Lander Road, the west side is beautiful going down, and there's nothing, it seems to be, not even flags, I don't know, buried maybe, but the east side is, let's add another, bunch of stuff. If there's so many underground issues, and there's lights and telephone poles, it just looks, for me as a citizen, to me, it just looks like, why not on the other side? And then my last thing is, I assume maybe that Code Red, you're gonna use that to announce about these meetings that are coming up.
Yes.
Is that right, Mayor? Okay, and so the electricity going out tonight, would that ever be something you put on Code Red to the citizens? We're aware
Well,
the power's out, we're working on it, just to cut to the,
It's always an interesting subject, when someone's electric is out, you announce to them your electric is out.
well, you could
They
make
kind,
it,
or it's like when I called in my outage, because what's important to the electric company is that people report to them that their electric is out, because that's how they describe and learn of the grid that is being affected by any particular outage. And in the recording, when I reported my outage, she said, "Do you want us to call you when your electricity is back on?" And I told them no, because when my electricity goes on, I guess all these light switches are going to illuminate again throughout my house. I'm going to know my electric's back on. So I don't need to be called at 2 a.m. because all the lights in my house went back on. So it's tricky. I understand your point, Gene. I really do. But there's a balance that frankly, I don't know totally how to solve.
Your conversation was as a citizen, not the mayor.
Yes, it
with the
was.
utility. I think that you could just be broad enough and why, with, as the mayor, to say, we're aware that there's power outage, just sort of like to the citizens that, we're aware of this and
Right.
if it affects you, because everybody wants to know and they want to know. So,
Okay, well,
anyhow,
I
you could
appreciate
do
your
that.
input to it.
We do all the ice
When- and
cream,
we-
code red, it should be an emergency, that's how it started, right? I like the ice cream, all the
Well,
other stuff. that
If
you
we,
do on
if
Code
we
Red.
remind people to report it in our newsletter, because I know sometimes you're not home and you want to know when your power goes back on.
In every
Um,
newsletter we do.
We do.
In
I remember
every
having seen
single
that.
newsletter, there's not in every newsletter we have, if your power goes out, call.
That's my answer.
We say that every time.
Okay, I
Chief
thought it
wants
was
to
in
say
there. I thought I
something.
saw that, because then they do call you, and if you're not home.
Why not?
Oh,
We
Carl,
finally got the
Yeah.
meetings changed.
Yeah, we did do a social media.
Yeah, I
post
saw it
with the
tonight.
timeframe on it for 9:30.
Oh, yeah, you did, you
On
did.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram. So.
And why?
I saw that before the meeting.
Yeah.
So if it was a longer amount of time, we would have done a code red if it was something more
Thank you.
disastrous.
right, and thank you for that point, because that's the one I was gonna make. When they tell us it's gonna go, I appreciate you're getting it on the social media. If it's gonna be longer lasting, we have in the past, and we will continue to alert people that your power is gonna be out for a while. If it's, sometimes they've turned it back on within a half hour. Sometimes it takes 2 hours. If it becomes apparent it's a storm, this is gonna last, guys. We do and have sent out alerts as to, this is gonna be long lasting, so I appreciate your comments, so I
On
understand.
that topic, last week, we did get an alert, and I can't remember if it was from the police chief or the fire chief, that the water line break on Sugar Boulevard was out. We did get a
Right.
reverse 911 call saying, that Sugar Boulevard was going to be closed. So
Right.
that did happen last week.
Yeah, because that affects the traveling public, and you don't have to nearly run over a flag man on Chagrin Boulevard unexpected.
Yeah.
The other thing
All
I
right.
might just recommend is, what I do all the time is go to the outage map, where you can go to the power company, wherever you happen to be, and find out how widespread it is. And a lot of times they'll tell you
Yeah.
when they think it's going to be back on.
Okay,
And that's
so if that's all the comments, we'll see you next week. We're adjourned.
Sheila, I'm gonna pick up his phone so I don't get stepped on.
Sheila.
I'll move through there, that's-
Forgot her.
Yeah.
Final next week, but if you have the full thing, I think.